got bit by a mosquito. It's all red and itchy and swollen. Oh, I got this big bump. What am I gonna do?
Sally here shows a case of mosquito bites. But what exactly happens in your body during a mosquito bite? Well, when bitten by a mosquito, the mosquito saliva is injected into the skin. Mosquito saliva contains proteins that allow it to feed on our blood without blood clotting occurring. However, this saliva acts as a foreign substance in our body. It triggers an immune response at the bite site. Little does Sally know, a hero comes to her rescue.
I'm Histamine Man, here to save the day. Even though I make you itchy, red, and swollen, it's because I dilate your blood vessels and allow the immune cells to come to the site of the bite. I'm an important part of your immune system, and I do much more than just fight mosquito bites.
The history of histamine started in 1907 when the chemical synthesis of histamine was discovered by Windaus and Vogt. Essentially, histamine is made from the amino acid histidine. What happens is the enzyme histidine decarboxylase, or HTC, removes a carboxyl group from histidine. This reaction produces histamine. In 1910, Dale and Laidlaw called histamine by its chemical name beta-imetazolyl ethylamine. These two scientists discovered the physiological actions of histamine, which led to future research in gastric acid secretion, antihistamines, and the 4 histamine receptors, which will be briefly later on discussed in the video. Later, scientists George Barger and Henry H. Dale isolated histamine from ergot, a plant fungus. Then in 1911, they found histamine in animal tissues, such as dogs, cats, and frogs. All these events sparked further research on histamine. But for now, let's hear what Histamine Man has to say.
The histamine receptor I bind to is H1, a histamine receptor found in neurons, cells in the airways, or blood vessels. This histamine lowers blood pressure, can cause itchy skin, blood vessel dilation, increased heart rate, and constriction of your airways.
While H1 is the target receptor for mosquito bites, there are 4 receptors that histamine can bind to: H1, H2, H3, and H4. While we've already discussed H1, I'm going to give you a quick overview. H1 is found in neurons, cells in the airway, and blood vessels. H1 is involved in low blood pressure, itchy skin, blood vessel expansion, increased heart rate, and the narrowing of your airways. H1 is commonly seen in sneezing, congestion, and anaphylaxis. It also regulates sleep cycles, memory, and body temperature. Now let's talk about H2. H2 is found in the stomach, cells that release acid. It is also found in smooth muscle and heart cells. H2 is involved in stomach acid secretion, hypotension, headaches, and bronchoconstriction. Now let's look at H3. H3 is found in neuron cells in the central nervous system. H3 regulates the release of histamine, dopamine, acetylcholine, neoepinephrine, and the blood-brain barrier. It is studied for the treatment of neurodegenerative diseases. Last but not least, H4. H4 is found in bone marrow and the hepatopoietic cells. It is important in the formation of blood cells and plays a role in the autoimmune and inflammatory disorders. Now that we know the 4 histamine receptors, what is the mechanism of action for histamine? When an allergic reaction is triggered in the immune system, histamine is released and binds itself to one of the 4 histamine receptors. As previously mentioned, histamine would bind to H1 for mosquito bites. The release of histamine and anti-inflammatory mediators causes inflammation at the bite site. This is what often causes itching, pain, and warmth, as histamine can stimulate nerve endings in this area. But here's the thing, Histamine Man can do it all. Here comes...
Anti-Histamine Man.
Anti-Histamine Man is Histamine Man's best friend and sidekick, the person who keeps him in check. When Histamine Man goes overboard, he can make you feel itchy and uncomfortable, even though he's trying to help. This is why Anti-Histamine Man does his thing.
I'm Anti-Histamine Man. I block the H1 receptor, which prevents histamine from binding to it, thus causing a competitive reaction. I'm a second-generation antihistamine. also known as Claritin, Allegra, or Zyrtec. However, my first generation antihistamine family is also well known, also known as Phenergen or Benadryl. I also come in the form of a topical antihistamine and a prescription strength antihistamine.
Whoa, antihistamine man seems to have a large family, but let's go over the history of antihistamine. In 1957, Daniel Brovit was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine for the discovery of antihistamines. Daniel Brovit discovered the first antihistamine substance in 1937 and developed the first antihistamine drug for humans in 1942. In 1944, the first generation of H1 antihistamines, known as pyrilamine, was produced. Later, in 1998, Sir James Black was also awarded the Nobel Prize for the identification of anti-H2R antigenists. This discovery was revolutionary because anti-H1R and anti-H2R antihistamine receptors antagonists have greatly improved the treatment for certain allergic disorders and gastric acid-related conditions. In more recent years, anti-H3R antigenists have begun early-phase clinical trials for possible applications in fighting obesity and a variety of neurological disorders. There is also significant evidence that anti-H4R antigenists can be used as treatment for allergic and other immune-related disorders.
After all the help she got from Histamine Man and Antihistamine Man, Sally feels so much better. She was ready to go home and tell her mom everything that she learned.
I learned so much! Thanks, Histamine and Antihistamine Man. Now I know why my body reacts like that when I get a mosquito bite. My bump is almost all gone, and it doesn't even itch anymore. Thank you!